Hello, welcome to Cinematography, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. I'm Chris Garner, joined today with Tate in the Hour to give our review on Thor Ragnarok, which is the 2017 latest addition into Marvel Cinematic Universe, directed by Taika Waititi, starring Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, and Cate Blanchett, and a whole host of other characters from the other movies. This is going to be a spoiler-free discussion for the first half, and we'll let you know once we get into spoilers, as it is a Marvel movie, and we don't want to be hounded by Marvel fanboys if we give anything away within the first 5 minutes. I think before we get into this one, do you just want to sort of highlight what the plot is off the trusty IMDb, just so people are on the same wavelength?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so imprisoned, the mighty Thor finds himself in a lethal gladiatorial contest against the Hulk, his former ally. Thor must fight for survival and race against time to prevent the all-powerful Hela from destroying his home and the Asgardian civilization.
Sounds a lot more exciting than the movie actually turned out. I do want to say as well that this is the first time that we've properly spoken about this movie. We know each other's opinions on the film, but we haven't talked in depth about it yet. So this should be a good one. So do you want to go into what you thought of the previous Thor movies, and more importantly, Taika Waititi, because I think his like print is definitely on this film.
So I liked the previous Taika Waititi films. I really like What We Do in the Shadows. I haven't seen Hunt for the Wilder People yet, but like I enjoy the way that he directed some of his previous films. And with the 4 films, I was okay with one. I thought it was one of the weakest, not the weakest, one of the weakest Marvel films in its first phase.
Okay.
Probably Iron Man 2 being the weakest. I definitely put Thor 1 second weakest. Thor 2 is one of the worst Marvel films. And just a not good superhero film in general. If I was going to give my first impression of this film, this is more like Thor 2 than Thor 1, quality-wise. Yeah, I don't like the way that Taika Waititi directed this film. He directed it way too much like the indie films that he's used to, and not like the giant blockbuster that it was meant to be.
So that's what I was going to say, actually, because I did say I was going to try and watch What We Do in the Shadows before going to see this one. Unfortunately, I didn't have time. So would you say that comedy-wise and the tone of the films is very much in keeping with his previous films? Then?
Here's the thing. There's one character who definitely, like, his comedy is Taika Waititi. And I'm not going to reveal that character just yet, because we'll probably be talking about it in the spoiler section.
Voiced by Taika Waititi himself.
Voiced by Taika Waititi. That is his kind of style of comedy. And it works, like, for that character alone. But it doesn't work with the rest of the tone of the film, and it doesn't work with all the other characters. I feel like he toned down his humor maybe a bit in some areas, especially at the very, very start of the film. There is this running gag of Thor permanently spinning, and that isn't his usual type of humor. I feel like he's gone, oh, well, the usual movies I direct aren't meant to be like, kids won't go see them, like they're 15s and up. I guess I'll throw in what I think is a child-friendly gag.
Which honestly got me the first time. I did laugh the first time, and then it happened the second time. I was like, oh, don't make this a running thing.
The 4-3 time. But yeah, overall impression, this wasn't the film that I was sold, and this wasn't what I really wanted to like this film, but it was pretty obvious earlier on that I wasn't going to like it.
Yeah, and we did a reaction, didn't we, to, I can't remember, was the Comic-Con trailer?
Yeah, no, that was one of the best trailers of the year.
Yeah, we were both, that last shot of the trailer, my God, we were hyped for this movie. I think at this stage, and I think I've said it before, I think I said it with Guardians, that you kind of know what you're getting with a Marvel movie now. They are all to a formula, and it's very, I haven't seen them change that formula in quite a while now. In terms of the previous Thor movies, for me, I absolutely love the first Thor movie. Actually, I wasn't too set on all the stuff on Earth with like Kat Dennings and
Yeah,
what's his name, Skarsgård, and even Natalie Portman, who they do write out of this movie in a pretty
I
unfulfilling
wonder
way.
why.
Yeah, well, yeah. But in terms of the movie itself, I liked that it introduced us to this new culture. I loved seeing Asgard. I loved seeing everything to do with that. I really wish we'd have got a movie just entirely set on there to establish the world, kind of like Lord of the Rings, like all the lore and
Mm.
everything. Loved all that stuff. I thought Kenneth Branagh did a really good job. And the music to that film as well, which I'll bring up later on in this review, is incredible to the first Thor film. I love the theme that they did with that. Then we got Thor the Dark World, which was awful in almost every single way. I think the only scene that I liked in Thor 2 was is it Freya? His mom, Thor's mom, when she died, the funeral scene essentially. I
Yeah.
thought was a genuinely beautifully crafted scene, and I loved that. Everything else I couldn't stand.
Mm.
Forgettable villain, everything that goes along with it, and that's kind of a staple now for Marvel in that you have a forgettable villain, which I'll get onto later.
The only memorable villains in Marvel at the moment are Loki and I would say
um,
Thanos, I
I know.
guess.
See, I wouldn't even say Thanos because I don't think they've done a good job yet of
The
establishing who he
fact that
is.
they've kind of mentioned him in multiple films has made him a notable villain, I would say.
I guarantee you ask any sort of like casual fan and said like who's Thanos, they wouldn't be able to tell you. He's
They
been
probably
in a
go, "Oh
chair
yeah,
for like 5 minutes in Guardians, and he's
big
turned
blue
to the
dude in the
camera in
chair."
Avengers. You know?
Yeah. So Loki is the only memorable villain then in the
Yes.
Marvel canon. Jesus Christ.
So
Um,
we'll get into the film
yeah.
more now. Then we'll start talking about some of these characters. Again, not giving anything away. So we'll kick off with Thor then. I thought
Too
Hemsworth was
comedic.
well. See, he's always been a
Too
comedic
comedic.
character. He's always been a comedic character, I would say. But yeah, if we go with
Almost.
our main positive and negative for the film before going into it, I think for both of us, tone is probably our biggest problem that we have.
Yeah, definitely. I was expecting an ultra violent, ultra bright, sci-fi mythology based film with a decent villain who's memorable, who actually feels like a threat, um, and a full performance where he feels lost and out of the way, from what I saw in the trailers, and it was him trying to find himself and trying to find his way back home and save his home. Yeah, tone was not that. Tone was bright, colorful for kids. A few adult jokes thrown in there, surprisingly. And I will say this in the non spoiler section. In my cinema, I had a bunch of like 7-year-olds in front of me, and like the parents were saying like the like not to, but yeah, they were saying that the kid was celebrating his 7th birthday party. Literally, one of the first words in the film is a swear word. Like, and it's not a film for kids. It's a 12A, and I feel like it's 12A is only because of the swearing. If it wasn't, if
What
there was
about
no
the
swearing in it, it'd be
what
a
about
PG.
the joke about orgies later on in the film?
Oh yeah,
Can
no,
you imagine that
there was some.
conversation? Mummy, what's an orgy? Well, little Timmy, that's how you were conceived.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving swiftly on from
Yeah.
orgies.
Positives. The music, I guess. But you didn't like the music.
It's not that I didn't like
You
them;
like the
it kind
music,
of
you
clashed.
didn't like it for this film.
Yeah, it's a great sort of Stranger Things sounding soundtrack. And you do have some orchestral moments, but they're not really memorable or noticeable. What you do notice the most is the 80s synth, which works for this new sort of cosmic galactic world that we're going to. It's very Guardians of the Galaxy, I would say, the second act of this film in terms of just the locale and the appearance. Biggest negative for me is definitely tone. I saw one review before going into this, and I tried to stay away from reviews as much as I can. And I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, you have comic relief, but everywhere in this film you're looking for dramatic relief. And
Yeah.
I will agree with that. I think The problem this film has is that, don't get me wrong, you can absolutely have comic relief. I mean, it's not like it hasn't been prevalent in other Marvel films. There's comic relief in all the Marvel films, but it's a balance. And as this is Thor Ragnarok, like this should be the climactic event of Asgard. It made me feel nothing at all. I was completely apathetic to everything that was going on screen, pretty much from beginning to end, and that's a problem. There are some very big character scenes in this film, events, which I'm going to go into in spoilers, and they constantly like hit you or throw a funny in there. And I would say that only about half the jokes land in this film. In all honesty, maybe that's just me. Maybe that's my style of comedy, and I did laugh at this.
No, I'm agreeing with you on that. I'd say, yeah, about half the jokes land in this film.
Yeah.
A lot of times, it was like you're kind of looking around the cinema and expecting someone in the crowd to laugh, and then realizing, oh, everyone else isn't laughing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't have a moment to laugh then. But I feel like that goes with a light-hearted tone. A lot of the actors probably were told it's going to be a fun film, so if you're gonna like, yeah, the dialogue has to be fun and everything like that. And I just don't think it fit the tone.
Yeah, no, this is the kind of movie where you wanted Thor to be a bit more, not like Logan, that's not the right word, but a bit more sort of like weathered, like he's been on this hunt for whatever he's been on. He's been in prison.
The film can still be a little bit dark, with the bright colors.
Yeah.
And that probably would have worked quite well. And from the trailer, what do we get? We get his home being destroyed, him being left without his hammer, him having to fight his friend, him being stranded away from Asgard, like this villain who's come out of nowhere and has like destroyed, laid sack to the city, like everything. What do we get in the film? None of that. Literally none of that.
There's no weight behind anything, and that's the problem that I have with quite a lot of these Marvel movies. Actually, don't get me wrong; there's still a fun time at the cinema. You go, well, mostly, you turn up, you pay your money. It's 2 hours, you have fun, you switch your brain off. That's fine, and then I pretty much never watch them again after that point. But yeah, no, this one I definitely probably won't watch a second time. And that hurts because I do like Thor. He's one of my favorite characters, and I did really like that first Thor movie. Let's get into the characters now then. So we mentioned Thor himself, a lot more comedic in this one. That being said, I still think that Chris Hemsworth turns in an absolutely great performance as the character. Like, he has given it his all. He's having fun with it.
Yeah.
I really like Chris Hemsworth in this one. Is it his best performance out of all the Thor films he's done? I'd probably give that to maybe the first Thor film. Maybe, did he have any dramatic moments in Avengers? He only really has that kind of standoff, doesn't he, with Loki in the battle with Iron Man, I would say.
Yeah.
But no, I thought he was fine. What else can we talk about?
I think he's going to have a bigger role in the next film.
Yeah.
In the next... But...
In all honesty, we could probably skip all the characters that have been in it before. Tom Hiddleston is Loki again. Like, there's no change there. Idris Elba is
funny because I'd say that Loki turned in one of the better performances out of this film.
Oh, God, yeah. But I mean, Tom Hiddleston's just great, isn't he? I mean, he steals the limelight every time he's on there. I think we should talk about some of the new characters. So, should we kick off with Cate Blanchett, our new villain for this film of Hela?
Yes, we'll kick off with Cate Bland. This performance was very bland. I was expecting villain. Note how I keep on going to the I was expecting and to be disappointing. In the trailers, she looked evil, real evil. And without spoiling anything, she doesn't really do much evil in this film. She just talks about how she used to be very evil in this film. And there isn't, like, she has that whole scene in the trailer where she's like, I'm not a queen or a monster, I'm the goddess of death.
Which we loved. We loved that line in the trailer.
We loved that line in the trailer, but the delivery in the film itself and the context was just... She was downgraded from what could have been a memorable... like Marvel villain to a Saturday morning Monster of the Week villain.
Yes, I definitely got Saturday morning. I'll tell you who she reminds me of. I think I've said this before. In the recent Power Rangers film, or indeed Power Rangers in general, she reminded me of Rita
Didn't see
Repulsa.
it.
Like the costume and like how she played it, like I
I
really
can
just went back
understand
to
that from what I've seen in the trailer. But yeah, no. I feel like she was criminally underused here. She's like an
Yes.
Oscar-winning actress. You give her good lines, you give her a lot of dialogue, you give her a believable backstory.
Mhm.
And I say believable because the backstory that she was given was great, but the character that she showed on screen was not that character.
Mhm.
I know that some characters have development from their backstories, but come on now, you've just
Yeah.
introduced this character to have a very kind of conflicting, evil, and yet she believes it's good backstory, and turned it into a bland kind of I'm deaf kind of I'm going to kill you now
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah, and
Let's
we can't go into a
yeah,
backstory really, can we? Because that's definitely spoilers, I would say.
that is spoilers.
Um,
Yes.
but it is kind of right. This is a character, right? Go with it. Now
Mm,
she's here. I don't know.
yeah.
Part of me did like her performance because Cate Blanchett played it really over the top, really hammy, just chewing the scenery. She has that line in the trailer where she's like, "Oh, I've missed this," and she's like really over theatrical with it.
Yeah.
And I did like that, but you are kind of there like, this is Cate Blanchett, she could give more than this. If you wanted her to play a real villain, she could absolutely do that. There's a few like Galadriel vibes I got in there as well from Lord of the Rings in terms of some of the delivery, maybe. Maybe that's just because I'm so used to Lord of the Rings and her voice. But there are
Yeah.
long stretch of this film where you don't see it. Like I went to see this with a friend, and during the very long second act, where they're in whatever planet is there was with Jeff Goldblum, I was like, wow, it's been a really long time since we've seen Hela, and there's no really like cutbacks to her. She kind of asserts herself as the new ruler, and then you kind of drop her until the final act, really, the final fight.
But she doesn't really do much when she is ruling over.
No, and it
Not
just
at
seems
all.
like a missed opportunity. I know it's hard balance to follow, especially in superhero film. It's like, do you devote all your time to the villain, like
Yes.
Tim Burton Batman films, for example, or you could argue Spider-Man as well sometimes. Although I think that's struck a better
I then
balance.
have to question because like they kind of spring the whole I've seen Ragnarok like
Hmm.
and it's going to happen thing at the start of this film. Couldn't they have done that in like previous films just to kind of tease it?
They
The whole
did.
thing with Marvel, is Easter eggs, Easter eggs, Easter eggs, Easter eggs, and I feel like the only Easter egg was it the Infinity Pool or whatever it's called,
In
where he
Avengers:
kind
Age
of
of
puts into
Ultron.
it.
Yeah.
But what was missing from that scene then? I don't. We'll go into that in spoilers because
Hmm.
the whole part of that scene was something is missing here, and we're trying to look through that scene and find things which were wrong with the scene, and I can't see anything that was wrong with that scene, which would bring forward into this film, which means it's a pointless Easter egg.
There was a moment in Civil War as well. I think it was where you've got a character who's getting. Oh no, it was Age of Ultron. With
Age of Ultron.
Scarlet Witch, where she gets into his head and he has that conversation with Heimdall, right? And they've all got yellow eyes and they're all dead in the courtyard. I think there was that. I think that was Age of Ultron, if I remember correctly. I've only seen that film once. Can we talk
Well,
about
we'll have to.
Can we talk about a Goldblum right now?
We will talk about Jeff Goldblum. um, wow, having a performance match.
It is
It,
Goldblum playing
it
Goldblum.
it's Jeff Goldblum playing Jeff Goldblum. I was actually shocked that they didn't have that picture of him laying down with his jacket open in the "Draw Me Like One of Your French Girls" kind of scene.
From Jurassic Park.
Literally, this was a Jeff Goldblum performance playing the person Jeff Goldblum, and I don't know if it works or not.
I think it works if you look at the context that this guy is meant to be the brother of Benicio del Toro's collector character from Guardians of the
But they
Galaxy.
don't say that.
No, they don't, do they? I was surprised by that.
If they mention it, or like, because he has his own backstory which he reads out to everyone, like he was cast out or something like that. It would have been cool if they had the whole he was cast out by his brother and then showed the brother. Done. That's all you need. But no. Instead, this is a character who can be completely solo to this film. Don't think he'll be. Yeah, no. I just don't think he is meant for this universe, shall we say? And yeah, I just didn't. I didn't enjoy the performance, shall we say?
Yeah.
Very bland again.
I feel like we're really bashing this film and trying to think of a positive. Not a new character at all, but I would say a very different take on the character. Hulk in this movie, who is probably this is the most we've ever heard him speak in the cinematic universe so far, unquestionably. Like he feels more of a character now and not sort of a force of nature, which they've kind of used him as before.
But that's because he's been Hulk since Age of Ultron.
Yeah, for 2 years.
When we see him in the film.
2 years he's been the Hulk. I really liked Ruffalo in this movie, as himself, as Banner, and as the Hulk as well. It was kind of strange to see Hulk talking that much, though. I'm used to just sort of like little snippets, little words here and there, and that's it. But I thought it was a lot more Hulk than what we've seen, because I know that they've taken from, what was it, Planet Hulk, the comic book?
Yeah. Well, apparently Planet Hulk is going to play out through and Infinity War.
Right, okay.
It's going to play into that storyline.
But in terms of there's I'm looking at other characters in this film that we could talk about. There's Carl Urban as well, who plays Scourge. Not at all what I thought Carl Urban was going to play in this movie. He's sort of like with a Cockney accent, like, and I'm like a geezer and that, and I'm like an executioner and everything. And it was strange. I mean, he's great. I mean, if you look at him in Dread or Lord of the Rings or whatever it happens to be, like, it's completely different. But I think my biggest criticism with the characters in this film is that they don't feel like characters. They all feel like caricatures. Even Odin, who I've loved in the previous movie, you could tell that Anthony Hopkins just showed up. He wasn't even in the costume half the time or most of the time. You know, it was like, oh, just wear whatever you want. Just show up. We'll put you in front of a green screen and it'll look absolutely fine. He's like, okay, collect my paycheck and I'm done.
I'd say there was a decent amount of green screen in this film in areas where it didn't need to have green screen.
Thank you.
There is one scene where they're stood on the edge of a cliff and it is so obvious that it is green screen that it's like looking at a Windows goddamn background. It's horrible. And you can tell that it's green screen as well because they're not stood like apart. They're stood together and it makes it so obvious.
There's no depth between them in the foreground and the background.
And
maybe
what they say is like, what's even worse is they say, oh, it's Norway. Okay, cool. Norse mythology. Nice callback. You could have at least gone to Norway.
Yeah.
I mean, Marvel has such a big budget that you don't need to just, oh, yeah, we'll film this scene in the studio. It's fine. We'll just tell them it's Norway. No, no, that angered me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I thought that the entire way through the movie, and I thought, am I off base on this? Because I know it's a Marvel movie. All the Marvel movies have huge amounts of CGI, don't get me wrong, but there was something about this one that really rubbed me up the wrong way. Like even Guardians or Guardians 2, a lot of CGI, but I never really had a problem with it in that. In this one, it felt like you're just clamoring for something real. Everything looks so fake.
It's okay if you CGI other planets, but why on earth would you CGI
something
Earth?
like that? And pretty much every shot in this movie has a green screen effect of that kind. On a green screen, you can tell that they're not in that location. There's no depth to it. There's no weight to any location they go to. I think one of the only practical things in the movie is the junkyard, where you've got those sort of things that look straight out of Star Wars, like the kind of scavenger aliens that you see in the trailer. There's probably a few more bits, but on the whole film, they're walking through corridors, and the corridors are CGI. There's like a skeleton or something in the foreground, and it's CGI, and it's just it has its place. Don't get me wrong, it's a superhero film. Of course, it has its place, but it's
Let's move to the final new character, a complete retelling of the character of Valkyrie.
Yes,
and they're going with the modern trend, which Deadpool is also going with having a, well, I guess it started off with Nick Fury having a white character turned into a black character on film. This one worked because they kind of interworked the original Valkyrie character. I'm assuming that we saw the original Valkyrie character. I cannot remember her actual name.
This is the first
but
time we've seen her character.
she has very, very blonde hair. And in the new Valkyrie's origin story, we see a very, very blonde-haired Valkyrie, which I'm assuming is the Valkyrie from the comic books.
Yeah.
So she gets kind of transferred the legacy of a Valkyrie who is now the last of the Valkyries, who is now Valkyrie, if that makes sense.
And visually, that was actually probably my favorite bit of the film.
Oh, that was by far, yeah, because that looked like a goddamn painting. It was beautiful.
Painting come to life.
But we saw that in the trailers. We saw most of that scene. It would have been nice maybe to have a bit more there. They didn't use the fact that they'd already fought once as a backstory at all. They use it as a throwaway line like, oh, I've already killed all of you guys once, so I have to kill all of you again kind of deal from Hela. But I didn't mind her character. She was useful in the film. She's kind of your typical hard person, like deceptive. She can beat up the Hulk if that helps. Although I don't think the Hulk was trying, I guess. No. But yeah, no. I wouldn't say like a bad character, but I wouldn't say a very interesting one as well.
I really didn't like her character in this film. Now, she's played by Tessa Thompson, who I've only seen in Creed. She played the character of Bianca, who was Creed's girlfriend in that film. And I really liked her in that film, actually. There was a lot of humanity to her character. She was a really nice character. And I liked her in that film. And it took me a while to sort of like work out who she was, because I remembered seeing her in another movie, and I couldn't remember what it was at that point. But in terms of a character, like, you have an interesting setup for a character in that she was once this great warrior, suffered huge losses on the battlefield, and now she's kind of gone into self-exile. She's drinking, she's kind of the down and out, and then she has to rise back to her status as to what she was. It's a character trope that's been done endless times. But even when she does change, or when something dramatic happens, there's no change in her. She plays the character as like a very what's the word I'm looking for? Like a very smug kind of character, like in terms of all of her delivery, constantly all the way through. And that's fine at the beginning, but you want some kind of growth.
I say no growth of this character, kind of.
She just plays it one note, like something emotional could happen and it's just, oh no, we need to do that. Or she'll be like really arsey about it. And you want a character to evolve. You want her character to change. And I don't really feel like she did. Oh, sure, she's more proactive. She's like getting back into the fight, but she still plays the character in very much the same way. And there wasn't much emotional diversity in her acting, I would say. And maybe that was direction. Maybe she was told to play it like that because she was great in Creed. And I think she's been in a few other TV shows as well. I don't know if she's been in any like BBC.
Yeah, no, Dear White People is the biggest one. The Netflix series. I haven't seen that. But she's the main character in that, I believe. But anyway, shall we move on to we've already kind of talked about the cinematography. This film's cinematography was okay on the Scrapyard Planet, I would say. I quite liked the Scrapyard Planet. It looked pretty cool, although maybe a bit too built up to be a Scrapyard Planet.
Well, it looked like there was rubbish like drifting in from all corners of the globe, wasn't it? So
yeah, but the actual city there looked a bit too clean, I would say, to be a Scrapyard styled planet. Asgard's Asgard, you can't really fault that. There is usually decent. The Earth cinematography was terrible in this film for when they actually do go to Earth. Other than that, I'd say not the best, but passable.
I'll agree with that. It's a lot more brighter, which you can probably gauge from the poster actually, or if you've seen any of the trailers, it looks very different stylistically in pretty much every way from the other Marvel movies, really. I think Guardians of the Galaxy, as I said earlier, is probably its closest comparison with this one. It was just a case of overuse of CGI for me in this movie. In terms of cinematography, it was fine. In terms of like the battle scenes, I could tell everything that was going on pretty much. There wasn't any sort of like overuse of shaky camera or anything like that that's been in a few of the other Thor movies.
What I would say was quite interesting as far as the directing was concerned, I guess part of the editing process, they had one scene in the film where they completely changed the style of editing, completely changed the style of filming. Chris, it's the one where Thor and Banner are in the corridor and they're talking to Valkyrie. And they do what I like to call the Wes Anderson shot. I'm not sure what it's actually called. Pastel-based backgrounds, direct-facing camera shot, reverse direct-facing camera shot. And they only did that shot for one conversation in the entire film. And the editing made it feel like you were in a Wes Anderson film for about 5 seconds, which was a bit interesting, a bit weird, I'd say. Felt very out of place.
I didn't really notice that, to be honest.
Well, in fact, wait a sec. If I can
Was it the scene before they head out where he's trying to recruit her on the team?
There is actually, if you have a look at the screen now, can you see that right there?
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah.
That scene right there. Look, pastel colors in the background, forward-facing camera, looking directly at the camera, and then they do a kind of reverse of that shot as well, which I don't know if it fitted in properly or not, but it felt a bit weird to have that there. You know,
I didn't notice it at all, to be honest. Maybe I turned off so much of my brain by that point of the film that everything was just numb to me.
Maybe.
We've talked about action. We've talked about effects. We've mentioned music as well. In all honesty, do you want to round off now, just an overall recommendation, and then we can get into spoilers?
Overall recommendation: if you're a Marvel fan, you have to go see this film. If you're a Marvel fan, you're probably going to go see this film. We're going to have no influence on that. If you're a general film fan, I'm still look. It's a fun film in some parts. There is some good dialogue in there, and it is somewhat entertaining for the amount of time that it's there. But you'll get bland characters, a bland ending, a bland plot. So it's whether you want to take that risk or not. So I'm actually going to be straight down the middle here and say you might want to go see it. You might not want to go see it. I wouldn't be able to judge you on that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. As you said, if you're a Marvel fan, and you've seen all the other ones,
to go see it.
It's obligation at this point. That's what I feel like. It feels like every time a Marvel movie comes out, someone's like holding the gun and saying like, "You will see this fucking movie." In terms of the other Marvel films, though, I did like. Well, you do have to watch previous ones. I would say that you probably have to watch the other Thor films and Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, but you don't have to see Civil War. You don't have to see all of these other ones. Which,
but you should watch Civil War.
Oh yeah, you should. It's probably one of the best Marvel films, but you know what I mean. It's nice that you haven't got to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2. You haven't got to watch all the other ones they've done in between as well. But in terms of recommendation, I didn't like this movie at all. Really, there's some jokes in there that did get me, and I did laugh. And I guess I can say that I wasn't hating myself in the cinema like I was another Anthony Hopkins movie from earlier this year, Transformers: The Last Night. Everyone. But I can't say I enjoyed it at all. Like, it got to the end fight and I just didn't care. I was just waiting for the movie to end. The jokes really did hamper this film for me. Jokes absolutely have their place. Some of them hit, a lot of them don't. And a lot of the ones that don't are in scenes that should have been played dramatic, and they're just not. So there's nothing else out at the minute. So, I mean, you may as well go. It's a fun time at the cinema, I guess, but it's not one that's going to bring me back at all. It's a film that I wanted more from. It could have been a really sort of like epic emotional conclusion.
Oh, it could have been amazing.
The Thor trilogy. Can we even call this a trilogy at this point? I mean, you have to watch like the first two, and then you have to kind of go through the Avengers films.
When we say it's a trilogy, it's not like the great modern day trilogies such as the Planet of the Apes trilogy. That's really the only modern day trilogy I can think of.
Yeah, same.
Whenever John Wick completes itself, whenever the Raid completes itself, please don't do Deathstroke, dude. Just go do the Raid.
What about when
finish off the Raid, please?
What about when 50 Shades of Grey finishes with 50 Shades Raid?
Oh god. You'll have a demographic which needs filling, shall we say?
Phrasing. We'll move on.
Okay, let's move on to spoilers.
So we don't have a single plan for this movie, so I think in terms of, we'll just go from the beginning of the film.
Let's start with what I would say was the best scene in this film, which was the Doctor Strange scene.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
Surprisingly, I'm starting to like him as Doctor Strange. I didn't like him much in the actual film, Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. But do you know his scenes in this film? He's starting to get more power. He's starting to get a little bit cockier with his powers as well. He's introduced himself into the mythos and introduced himself to both of the characters. I feel like Loki might have a grudge against him if they do meet again, when they do meet again. And I feel like Thor kind of had a good introduction to him. And it was an interesting way of blending in the character into this film.
I completely forgot it was in this movie. I guess I take back my previous statement of that you don't have to watch many of the other ones in between, because now you have to kind of add Doctor Strange into the mix there. So no, I like seeing him, and I completely forgot what the post-credit scene was of Doctor Strange. And then I remembered, oh yeah, it was Thor drinking the beer at the table with him. It makes sense that Doctor Strange is here. I liked the music as well, how they kept that very psychedelic, like sitar, like dreamlike music. I really enjoyed that. It was good seeing him there again. It's probably one of the best scenes in the film. What else do I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about the opening of the film. And by God, they've got the rights to Immigrant Song. They are just going to spam that thing, whether it be in the trailer or twice in the movie. It has gave me a newfound love for that song again, and I did listen to it a bunch of times after the film had finished. I liked that it was the cold opening. I do love a good cold open, and you get caught up through voiceover in like a very effective way. I thought how they did it. It was fun. And then we kind of get introduced to not the main villain, but sub-villain in Suture, I think is called, isn't he? The giant lava guy.
Yeah, Suture.
Yeah.
Suture.
But he's not very menacing because he's kind of incompetent.
Got comedic and looks kind of he looks very kind of
I tell you who he looks
cartoonish.
Like, and I'm going to stir up the pot right now because this movie's come out 1 month ahead of time. He kind of looks like the design for Steppenwolf in the upcoming Justice League movie. He's even got the same kind of like hammer weapon.
Marvel, congratulations on jumping the gun.
I've started a war in the comments section right there. I know I have.
You definitely have.
If there's any DC fanboys watching,
yeah,
or actually even Marvel fanboys.
I'm going to go ahead and say, looking at the Wikipedia page, it says Thor allows himself to be captured by the fire demon in order to learn more about the Infinity Stones. We don't get any mention of the Infinity Stones here.
He says that you went looking, but he didn't find any, and that's it.
Yeah. I want to go ahead and say that as far as Infinity Stones in this film, we get the Tesseract, and I'm sure that Loki took that from the vault. I am 100% sure that Loki took that from the vault.
I think he's going to try and curry favor with Thanos, maybe, in Infinity War.
Well, the post-credit scene is Thanos' ship.
Oh, is that who it was?
Yeah. Well, okay.
See, I thought it was... do you want to talk about post-credit scenes now, or...?
In fact, I'm going to talk about the secret trailer, which people have only really described but haven't really seen. And we've seen a bit of the Infinity War trailer, but not a very good look at it. And at the very, very start of the Infinity War trailer, we see Thor floating through space after what looks like a space battle.
Which is what I thought this movie was going to end with, in all honesty. Yeah.
It would have been cool if that was the case, but no. Instead, they're going with the battle will be the first thing to happen in Infinity War. And once the battle is done, Thor will obviously lose. He'll be floating through space, and he'll meet up the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That's how that film's going to start, which is a good thing to know now. Whether Loki will try and double cross, although now he's a good guy, or is he a bad guy?
He always walks the line. He's like Magneto. It's like Magneto with Charles Xavier, isn't it? Like they have that same kind of connection. I thought it was the ship from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with the gold people on. But I couldn't remember the design to that. I've only seen it once.
No, it wasn't.
Was it? Okay. That's fine. Usually what I have to do is I watch these post-credit scenes and then I immediately have to go to Wikipedia or Google for Marvel fans that are a lot more knowledgeable about me about things. So,
let's have a look. In the post-credit scene, they're discussing whether they'll be welcome on Earth and their spaceship appears behind theirs. It doesn't actually say it's Thanos' spaceship, but I'm pretty sure it's Thanos' spaceship.
Yeah. We know it's not going to end well for the fate of everyone on board Thor's ship.
Shall we talk about Taika Waititi's character finally? The only character
Korg.
that fitted the tone, the only character that actually fitted the tone of the film.
I'm really torn whether I liked this character or not. When he first showed up,
Here's the thing.
I really okay.
Here is the thing. You like him in context of the tone of the film because he fits the tone perfectly, but you don't like the tone of the film, therefore you're unsure about the character.
Yeah. When he first shows up, I was like, oh no, why? Why do we have this guy? Some of his lines are fun. As the film goes, hello, my name's Korg. I work here in the Gladiator Pit.
Yeah.
But as the film goes on, you kind of get used to his character a bit more, and maybe as the tone sort of like carries on being really wacky, fits more into that tone. However, they should have reined him back, and more importantly, they should have reined him back at the end. I'm going to draw a few comparisons here in my mind. So at the end of the film, Asgard is destroyed. Ragnarok happens, the prophecy is fulfilled, and Thor's homeworld, all the Asgardians' homeworld, is completely laid waste to. And there's a shot where they've all got away safely, although apparently the entire population of Asgard is like a few women and children. I don't know if they can all fit in like one small cockpit of a ship. But they're all looking at the devastation, and the music's kicking in. This is huge. This is a huge moment for the Thor character. His home, his kingdom, everything he's known has just been laid waste to, is destroyed. It's gone. And there's nothing. You don't feel anything. And then just as you're about to, Korg like chimes in, he goes, oh, well, we can like rebuild from the foundations and everything. Then it cuts to like the whole planet or whatever just being blown up, the realm. And he goes, oh yeah, no, you won't be able to rebuild from that. The foundations are completely gone. And it's stuff like that. You try to get emotionally invested in a dramatic moment. It'd be the equivalent to me, right? It's another superhero film. Bruce Wayne's parents have just been shot in an alleyway. And then as soon as that happened, and he's like kneeling in the pool of their blood, a guy walked past me like, oh, tough break, kid. Oh, that must really suck. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go?
Or just having Alfred appear up and just saying, hey, we could go get ice cream.
Yeah, something like that. Or Superman. Superman, like the fucking planet Krypton just gets destroyed. And then you just have a guy going like, oh yeah, no, that planet isn't coming back. Oh, that's really tough.
Ooh, tough break. Ooh, unlucky.
That's Superman. Must be really cut up about that, bro. Like it's there's a time and a place for jokes, and that was not one of them. I will say though, my favorite moment in the entire film, which I don't say I got emotional at, but I did have like the biggest sort of like outcry for it. They play the original Thor theme, the Patrick Doyle score from the first Thor movie at the end when he sits on the chair. He's got the new sweet eye patch now. He's following the footsteps of Odin. They do reprise the Thor theme from the first movie, which is by far probably the best orchestral piece that Marvel have done. The music is a big thing for me with the Marvel movies, and I've said this countless times. There's a great video on the internet, and I can't remember what it's called. If I find it, I'll put it in the description down below, talking about music in general, but more importantly, music within the Marvel Cinematic Universe and its distinct lack of themes. You think of the original Superman, he's got a theme. Original Batman got a theme. You could even say the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. There's a piece of music there that always plays when they show up. It gets you tied to that character, and every time it plays throughout the movie, you have an emotional response to it. With Marvel, you don't really have that because they tend to get a different composer in for each sequel, for each iteration. So there's no continuation. I think the only one you could probably say that has continued has been the Avengers fanfare, and even that only appeared once in Avengers 2. So I don't even really count that one.
Frustrating to say the least.
Marvel
has a problem with a lot of its music. This music was good sci-fi kind of 80s synth music, but it wasn't overly memorable.
But it doesn't follow on from Patrick Doyle's first one. It doesn't follow on from The Dark World, even though they used themes from both of them. It was nice hearing it again at that moment, and I just wish that had have continued as Thor's theme, because it would have tied you to that character. Music is a really, really crucial component of a movie, and I think that's what all of these Marvel movies have really lacked in terms of memorable.
It's quite interesting because on the other end of the spectrum, DC has some great
memorable themes.
They have some amazing memorable themes.
I mean, don't get
Like,
me
I
wrong, I'm not
mean,
a big fan of the new Superman theme compared to John Williams's, but it's a theme that I know and is tied to the character. Wonder Woman.
yeah,
Everyone talks about that theme.
yeah,
Yeah. I think it's
it's
really
good.
important, especially with superhero characters. Um, Okay, can we talk about? We're so all over the place with this one, guys. I apologize, but we don't
Yeah.
have a plan for this one, so we're just winging it. A couple of problems I
Mm.
had with the movie was the continuation between Thor: The Dark World and this one. So, as we said earlier, they write out Natalie Portman's character completely. I think a character asked him like, "How's Jane?"
Mm.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, she broke up with me." And there's no response from Chris Hemsworth at all. Why would she break up with him? He's the god of thunder. She was completely besotted with him in the other movies. Why would she break up? She wouldn't. It's completely out of character to the point where I'd rather they just hadn't have mentioned her at all, and we could sort of imply.
Yeah.
I think there was a line in the first Avengers movie before they go out to fight, and I think that Thor says like, "Did you get Jane to safety?" And then Coulson's like, "Oh yeah, we got her to a safe house." She's not in the movie, but it's a little bit
Yeah.
of information like that. So I'd rather if they were going to do a line, just say like, "Oh, she's on Earth. You know, I've been away for a while searching for Infinity Stones." Um, Something like that. I don't think you had to say that. Oh, she dumped him just as an excuse to not put her in any movies. I think you could have had a way around that that would have been more in keeping with the character.
Mm.
And also Odin. Did you like what they did with Odin
Hated it.
between the two movies? Yeah, me too.
Absolutely hated it. Um, yeah, no, didn't like it at all.
So
We thought, oh, what's Loki's gone and done like a massive trick and stuff like that.
we thought
He's
we
gone
killed
and put
him.
him somewhere.
Or
We
oh yeah,
thought he'd killed him. Nope, he's gone to an old people's home. Oh, nope, he's gone from that old people's home to Norway of all places. What
and he's
fun!
like
And
lost his mind or something. Did Loki
and
make him
Loki's
lose his
broke it over.
mind, or is it like
Loki.
old
Here's
age?
the
Or
thing. They said Loki made him lose his mind, but he's broken the spell and he's happy with his peace and he
yeah,
doesn't want to go back to Asgard. That's so dumb.
yeah,
It's ridiculous. But no,
yeah.
that
No,
opened up for a whole world of Cate Blanchett shenanigans, shall we say?
yes, who turns out to be the sister of Thor, and well, Thor, I
Okay, I'm
guess,
I'm
not
okay
really
with that.
Loki.
I'm okay with that. She's a god. He's a god. Makes sense.
Mhm.
What doesn't make sense is to have a character who is meant to be so evil, goddess of death, who only kind of kills the palace guards, and that's it
Yeah,
in
they
the
don't even
entire
execute
film.
any civilians. There's a moment where she's about to, and then it doesn't happen. There's
Yeah,
no,
but I
yeah,
just want to. It's just like, let's think about this for a second. She's meant to be so evil, like impossibly evil character, or is she conflicted because Odin kind of sent her down this path,
mhm.
and then Odin realized what he was doing and turned his back on the path that they wanted. To be honest, she just wants to conquer the cosmos, which is a decent shout. If she's dead or not at the end of this film, but maybe she can team up with Thanos.
Oh,
Isn't he
she's
meant to
dead.
be?
He has to be after that, right?
Hold on, I want to just point out that isn't she meant to be like Thanos's lover?
No, so that's death
Death.
itself.
So not the goddess of death, death itself.
Yeah. I did see a few comments in one of the reactions we did where they wasn't sure if they were going to blend the two characters together, but I
I
don't.
thought they were going to try and blend the two characters together, but obviously not now. She's
Yeah,
dead,
no, she's gone.
dead.
Yeah.
Um,
What did you think? So I thought this when I saw the character of Hela. I mean, we saw her in the trailers, but we didn't know that she was going to turn out to be the sister of Thor. She
Yeah.
looks more like a sister of Loki, but Loki was
Yes.
born of the frost giants and really has no blood relation to Odin. Yeah, if you said like, "Oh, Loki and her are brother and sister," I'd be like, I can totally see it.
I
But
see
with
that.
Thor,
Yeah.
I don't. Do you know what I mean? It was slightly strange. I don't know. It's just like the long black hair, isn't it? And like the evil made up appearance, I guess.
Overtones.
She did
And
look great
green.
though. Cate Blanchett definitely did rock that. What would you even
But
call that? I don't even know what that suit is.
um, I'd say Matrix Goth.
Yes, yeah. And I've always had an affinity for Cate Blanchett, even more so when she's rocking the goth attire in this movie. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
No.
What else? What
Yeah.
else?
I want to. As far as everything else is concerned, Heimdall was okay.
Yeah,
in Idris
I
Elba. He
like
doesn't
Idris
really.
Elba. He was cool. I liked that sword that he
Yeah.
had. I want that on my
Oh.
wall.
Oh hell yeah. And finally, if there was one scene which would I would recommend again for people to go see this film for. There is this one scene in an elevator where it's the first time where there's any form of gravity to any situation. It's Loki and Thor talking about how their paths have diverged and how all Thor ever wanted was to fight alongside his brother. And Loki said, "Well, I don't think that's going to happen like anytime soon," which was nice. And what do you go to finish off that scene? Let's play Get Help.
Yeah, it's you want it to have those moments, and they could have those moments. These are really rich characters in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the characters you've got, because you've got so many like family
I think
problems and
with a lot of
intrigue
the
and
with a
political.
lot here's the problem. With a lot of the films, they're very good at building up the universe, but they're not very good at extending the universe.
Yes, yeah, I'll definitely
The
agree with
only
that.
characters that they've been able to extend fully, I'd say, was Captain
Captain
America.
America and
Because
Bucky.
I'd say in the first film, his character was, I wouldn't say weak, but they didn't do much development to his character in the first film, which allowed them to do more development to him in the next few films. Whilst with the other characters in the Marvel Universe, they go through a lot of development. Like
And then
they
they just
learn from
kind
their
of level
lessons, and
off.
then they just kind of, oh, I've learned from my lesson once. I'm not going to learn from. I've already learned that lesson. That's all my development done. That's my key
Yeah,
character traits. What next?
yeah. No, I'll agree with that. At this point, there's really only a couple of scenes we need to talk about. So the biggest one from the trailer was the fight between Thor and Hulk, um, which
Uh,
was it was
okay,
fine. It was a
I'm
fight.
now okay. I've been building up to this now. I am now going to tell you why in this film I really do not like the character of Thor. The acting, do not like the character. Here is why. If you're going with a character who is going on a journey, a character who is like trying to discover his new powers and stuff like that, you don't immediately make him fight the most powerful being in one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel universe without his main source of power. We've always been told, okay, what happens if Thor loses his hammer? Okay, from that point on in the film, the entire film should be Thor is a weak character trying to rediscover his power. He shouldn't be a character who should be able to almost defeat the Hulk without his main weapon a day after losing his main weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that should not happen. He should be weak. I would have preferred it if he didn't fight the Hulk in the pit and fought someone who he should have easily been able to beat on normal circumstances. But because he doesn't have his hammer, he doesn't have the confidence or he doesn't have the power within himself to actually win the fight. Instead, we get him losing on a technicality, or I guess winning, really, because he would have knocked out the Hulk without his goddamn hammer, without his main source of power, after he's meant to be a weakened character. He's been captured. He's basically enslaved, or whatever Jeff Goldblum put it as.
Oh, I don't like that word.
Yeah. But we still see him being this all-powerful being, and that's not what you want from a character who's just had all of his powers stripped away. It's like a magician being told, it's like Harry from Harry Potter losing all of his magical powers and yet still defeating Voldemort in the first fight he has with him. That just doesn't work. You then have Thor basically going through the film, not losing a single battle, gaining more power every single time, and defeating all of these creatures every single time. It's not good in that sense. That's not the way that you develop a character, even slightly. And I would have preferred to see Thor lose once or twice, not based on technicalities, but based on the fact that now he doesn't have his hammer. He is a weaker character.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been great to see him build up that power a bit more. Like, it would be cool to have the sparkle scene, like seeing sparks of power, maybe after he gets defeated in his first battle, like he's almost killed, but they want to keep him because he looks like an entertaining fighter. They say he's now going to face the Hulk, and he thinks, I'm going to die here. So he starts training during the training montage, he starts to get kind of the thunder coming through and stuff like that. Something like that. Maybe have him train with Valkyrie or something like that.
The fact that you
Anything
said you
would make
want a
this film
training
better.
montage in this film, I'm instantly behind. Can you imagine it with like the 80s synth as
With
well
the
from this
80s
film?
synth, oh, to fight the Hulk. And he could even be told you're fighting the Hulk, but like he could even have interaction with him where the Hulk doesn't recognize him or the Hulk doesn't like him and stuff like that. But yeah, it would have been better to see him powerless instead of powerful without his hammer.
From that point as well, it's an interesting point you've raised with that, because he uses his lightning to beat back the Hulk in that fight. And then essentially he doesn't use this power again, and then ultimately
until the very end.
The at the end by using his lightning. And I thought, well, and it seems like in that context of the ending, he can only channel that power once he's in that point right where he's about to die, and he goes into like his head and he has that memory of Odin, who tells him he has this power. He says, like, you're not god of hammers, you know, you're the god of thunder. And then he's like, right, I have this awakening. Then he beats her back with thunder. If he hadn't have used it previously in the movie, and that was the first point where he'd learned that power after he'd gone on this entire journey of self-discovery, as he says himself at the beginning of the film, and he learns this power for the ending, that would have been great, because then he would have been the all-powerful, mighty Thor without the hammer. But because he used it earlier in the movie, I was like, well, why don't you just use that all the time? Because it seems like it's a very effective means to dispatching enemies. Why didn't you open with that? Speaking of opening with things, Cate Blanchett, the Warriors 3, are killed instantly with no kind of moment to dwell on their deaths at all. They were like key side characters in Thor. I had a real big problem with that. Also, I can't remember Thor: The Dark World. Did Lady Sif die? Where's Lady Sif?
I'm pretty sure Lady Sif died. Wait a sec.
Because I know that his mom did, Thor's mom, but I don't know if Lady Sif died.
I've got a Digital Spy article. Here's why Thor Ragnarok doesn't feature Lady Sif. She's been in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
But it didn't.
Sorry, I'm just reading through this.
It felt like she needed to be there. You know what I mean? She was a major character. She was friend to Thor. She should have been
on a TV show. He was too busy for filming.
But even like an explanation as to why she isn't there. You know, she was huge in the Thor films, and she, you know, it felt like she needed to be in the final battle alongside Thor.
She was too busy filming. So basically, we're missing two of Thor's leading ladies.
Yeah.
In the film.
I'm not fussed about Natalie Portman not coming back, because the whole Earth stuff, it was what it was. But Lady Sif, I had a real big problem with that, not seeing her in this movie. What else? Okay, I want to talk about the dumbest scene in this film, which didn't make me almost walk out, but it just made me throw my hands up and go, just this is shit. I don't care. So it's right before they airdrop the Hulk into the battle. Yes. And he says, like, you know, I'll show you who I really am. Jumps out of the plane. He's really high up. They're in this kind of aircraft thing. Falls into the Hulk, and boom, bounces off the Bifrost. Dead. You'd be instantly dead. Even in the context of a superhero film, he's a human.
What they've said in the past is, like, in probably one of my favorite Hulk lines was Bruce Banner basically saying, "I put a gun down my throat, and the big guy spit out the bullet." Like, I'm going with that kind of mentality that he's basically immortal.
Okay.
I'm going with that kind of mentality. But what I really didn't like about that whole thing was, oh my god, if I become the Hulk, I may never go back and stuff like that. Was he at the end of the film? He's Bruce Banner. He went back. We didn't even see the transformation. So all that risk paid off to nothing in the end. Literally no payoff, because it wasn't like he was stuck there. He wasn't like, in the end, he had like free reign over whether he turned back into the Hulk or not. It would have been nice for him to not know whether he could do that or not, and not have a clue whether he would stay as Hulk forever or whether he would be able to go back to Bruce Banner.
Yeah, no, that would have been nice. yeah, I think why I was confused as to why he survived the fall was because I don't even, at this point now, can we even say that the Ed Norton Incredible Hulk film is canon? Like, I know
Don't
Tony
you mean the
Stark
Ed
shows up.
Norton Captain America
Captain
film,
America.
Chris?
um,
We're never letting that go, dude. You
no, I
know that,
know, and
right?
I don't want you to. I don't want you to. But in that film, they make a big deal of. I think when he like airdrops himself into the battle with Abomination, that film, and there's like panic, like he's not changing. Why is he not changing? He needs to change into the Hulk before he hits the ground. And like,
Yeah.
thankfully, he does. There's that reveal that he does. But in this movie, no. Apparently, he can just throw himself onto the ground, break every bone in his body, instantly kill himself. But the Hulk's going to get up and he's going to be fine. That's not how it works. I don't feel like Han Solo. That's not how it works.
Not how it works.
So I hated that scene. If I'm going to go with my favorite joke in the film, I did like the Stan Lee cameo in this one.
Yes.
So I've kept the beard for our review, but Lord knows this isn't going. So I felt every ounce of Thor's fear in that scene where they were going to cut his hair. I did like that.
But yeah, I've said everything I can about this film.
Me too. I'm just going through the film again. No, there's nothing else. Fenrir was cool, the wolf. I did get a bit confused of the geography of the fight on the bridge because it seemed like you had the army on one side, you had the civilians on another, and the wolf was running towards the civilians. And then all of a sudden, the wolf like disappeared from the bridge and wasn't there in a wide shot, and I didn't know where it was. So I don't know. No, I've said it on this movie. Final verdict.
Wait a sec. No. One final thing.
Yes.
A misquote, shall we say? Thor does not defeat Hela with lightning in the end. He uses his smart wits to go and unite the crown with the eternal flame to raise Ragnarok. But here's the thing: he was able to hold her back. But here's my thought process: the only reason why she was able to get to Asgard in the first place was because she jumped through the portal. If, as she's gone and destroyed almost everything on Asgard, all modes of transport and stuff like that, and if they have the sword, doesn't that mean that they could just leave her there stranded? She'd be Queen of Asgard, but she'd be the Queen of Ashes. Wouldn't that have been a better ending? Instead of like the whole Ragnarok thing was okay. The Asgardians have to relocate. She stays alive, but she's stranded on this planet that she's destroyed, with nothing there left to rebuild with.
Dude, can I pitch you the end shot of what this movie should have been? So they're all racing to the Bifrost to get the sword in, to get away from there, to evacuate the planet and leave Hela there.
Yeah.
Hela is powering across the Bifrost, trying to get there before they turn the sword and disappear. She almost gets there. They disappear. She gets to the Bifrost. She can't go anywhere. Slow motion turns around to look back at Asgard as it just gets completely wiped out and takes out everything along with her with it.
Instead, I would keep her in the canon. I would combine her character with Death itself, and I would have the final scene her sat on the throne with it crumbling all around her, and just trying to think of what her next mode of action is. Have her as a threatening character who could be more of a threat in the films to come. But she got what she wanted. She was the Queen of Asgard, but she is the Queen of Rubble and Ashes. And what would be better would be the fact that she inflicted the blood and ashes because she went and destroyed the city.
Yeah, that's cool. See, we could have wrote a more compelling Thor film, I'm sure, if I had to. Final question I will ask you before we give our verdict. Although I guess this is a verdict.
Yeah.
How would you rank this alongside the other two Thor films? Would you say it's better than Dark World?
It's better than Dark World. Dark World was tonally bad in the other direction. It was too dark, and it didn't have any gravity behind anything as well. An even more forgettable villain. I can't even remember the name of Christopher Eccleston's villain's character.
Malachite the Accursed, wasn't it? The Dark Elf.
Dark Elf boy. Dark Link or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, no, I'm done. I'd rate this middle of the four films. Even though I didn't really like the first Thor film, it's still the best Thor film that's out there, which is sad to say.
I don't know if disappointment is the right word for this film, because in all honesty, like, I probably should have known I was going to get this movie based on the trailers, based on sort of like Marvel's track record and the sort of cookie cutter formula. But I was kind of let down by it. I do like seeing a good Thor movie. We've only had one before this. Fortunately, we've had two bad ones at this point. I probably would say this is better than Dark World, in all honesty. I think tonally, the second Thor film was probably more in keeping with the first. This is very different. And is different a good thing? I'm not so sure it is in terms of the comedy of this film. I would have liked more dramatic moments. They had the opportunity to do them. They sadly didn't. Yeah, and sadly it was kind of a letdown. So yeah, we've said everything we can on Thor Ragnarok. One thing I will say really, really quickly, I do like how they clear up the one plot hole they had in the first Thor film. In the vault of Asgard, you could see the Infinity Gauntlet there, and people were saying, well, hang on, there's an Infinity Gauntlet in the vault, but then Thanos has one. They clear that up in the movie by saying it's a fake. So I thought that was really clever because Marvel fucked up, and now they've retconned that, and that's absolutely fine. But that'll do it for our review on Thor Ragnarok. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of this movie. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? How would you rank it next to the other Thor movies? How would you rank it next to other superhero films that have come out this year? Anything Thor related, please do drop us a comment. I guess we should say, like, I don't know if you're going to be on the news tonight. This will probably be your last movie review.
I will be on the news tonight, and whether it's my last review or not will depend on how fast you can get through Stranger Things, Chris.
Yes, this is true. Yeah,
because I'm going to binge it in one. I'm going to binge it tomorrow when it comes out. So you've got 1 day to basically. I am leaving on Sunday, but I'm leaving on Saturday, if that makes sense.
Oh, we probably won't be able to then, because I'm not free for most of tomorrow.
Saturday will be, I can do possibly Saturday morning, possibly.
No chance you could stream at all from Austria for a quick Stranger Things review?
I am going to be focused heavily on my course, as well as the fact that the internet access out there is terrible.
Shocking bad. Okay, we'll work something out.
It's good enough to watch things, but not good enough to stream things, if that makes sense.
Well, even if we have to wait until December. Oh, God, my voice has gone. Yeah. I don't know why. We'll get a review out for Stranger Things Series 2 at some point, because we definitely want to
Don't get emotional on me, Chris.
Just too much. Yeah, but no, that'll do it for our review. We'll be going live again later tonight for our weekly edition of the news. We weren't live last week, unfortunately, so there'll be a lot of news to discuss tonight. So please check back for that. There'll be more reaction videos from me as and when I get the chance to do them. There was a new Star Wars The Last Jedi behind-the-scenes reel that I really do want to take a look at and talk about that. A lot of stuff happening with the channel, so hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon as well, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time or later tonight. See you guys.